And we are back, and there is a very important topic regarding what would be then the services of the priest when they reset up the tabernacle. It's very simple. They would do what they used to do before. The only distinction is, rather than using the dam of animals, they would simply minister to Yahweh Yeshua in the Holy of Holies. The only topic that's left behind, and then people don't understand the reason why they should reset up the tabernacle, is the spiritual line. The spiritual line set in Shavuot. People don't understand that there is a spiritual line, a nearing line in the world, and this line is extremely contaminated. It must be cleansed. And the prayers of the priests in the Kadosh Kadoshims then would maintain this line cleansed. This is what it is. So then, when they are re-established in their Kadosh Kadoshims, they are going to maintain this spiritual line clean. Because then, with the goys outside and more people coming into the faith, as they repent of their sins and they are born again, the relink then is re-established. They must relink themselves with the spiritual line set in Shavuot. So this is the meaning of it. It's not only building up the tabernacle and the tents, but maintaining the spiritual line clean and clear. So this is what is lacking. They didn't understand before because in part they were blinded. So this is what's going on. They must maintain this existing spiritual line cleansed and clear, so then they can understand what's going on outside of the camp. Besides their teaching, besides their healing, besides the prophecy, besides the wisdom, besides the knowledge, besides the tongues, interpretation thereof. So it's very important doing what Moses said to do. There was no distinction from the time before Yahshua, neither after Yahshua, other than the dam of animals. And then, of course, when came the Shavuot, and then the spiritual nearing line was placed in the world, and then the goys would be then fed through this line. It must be maintained with the prayers of the priests while they minister to him. Then the nearing line maintains clean. So this is what it means. Very important. If this does not get done, then there would have no meaning for the tabernacle and the services of the priests. But only the priests are qualified. Only they are qualified to make sure the spiritual line is cleansed and clear. Because what was taught from Moses was they would be maintaining the spiritual line, and then they would shepherd the people from the outside as they were outsiders in Egypt. Think of it, when the nation of the Hebrews, they were slaves in Egypt, what Yahweh did do? He rescued them from their paganism and from the foreign land. And he brought him to the desert. He gave his system, his laws. And then they went to the promised land to establish. And then they established the temple. That was the shadow of the first. And then they would be taught how to be shepherds of those who are outside as they were outside. So the priests then, they are the only people qualified to maintain the spiritual line clear and clean, because they are going to have the lives of the goys outside the camp in their hands. This is what it means. And this spiritual line, ever since it was disbanded, it is in the hand of the witches. And they are doing heck with the world. And it must return to the hands of the priests, because they know how to maintain this spiritual line, because they used to do in the past. So this is the vital service that is expected of them, because they are the only people that can maintain this lifeline of the goys outside of the camp. That's why there are so many very godly, believing guys outside, and they are dying because it lacks the proper link with the Kadosh Kadoshims. Start making sense, doesn't it? And they must return to their camps and help those that are outside, because the evil is every day stronger and stronger. But it's going to come a time where the priests, they are going to return to their services, and they are going to maintain the lives of those outside. It is very important, very vital. So this is what it means. It's maintaining the spiritual line clear and clean, so then they maintain the lives, the spiritual lives of the goys, that they were relinked. And they are linked themselves then with the spiritual line, the nearing line set in the world in Shavuot. There is a great understanding, because Shaul then, he said himself, while he himself was not with them in the flesh, then he was with them in the spirit. This is where it came from. The spiritual line set in Shavuot for the benefit of the goys, while they will be maintained outside of the camp via the Kadosh Kadoshims. And then obviously, besides, then the people then qualified and functioned in a camp would go outside the camp to teach them more and more and more and more. And then would bring more people for teaching, and then would form another group. So it's an ongoing spiritual maintenance, and it is neglected for centuries. But it must return. So then the goys, they're outside, faithful, then they have a reference point to link themselves with. So then what Shaul said made sense. Though himself he was not in person with them, yet he was in the spirit, because he was linked with the spiritual line set in Shavuot. And this is what it was lacking. Israel did not understand their function. They did not know that they had to maintain this spiritual line, and they would have the life of the goys in their hands. And then the others, they would be shepherding them. The spiritual line must be maintained. And this is the function of Ruach HaKodesh in their lives, while they themselves are ministering to Yahweh Yeshua in Kadosh Kadoshims. And then the people outside, they are linked with it. And there is a whole lot more coming up, but this is the first step. Those camps must be re-established and fast. So then the people of the faith, they can come near the gates and stay there and do the service for the camp. And the work of the priests are the utmost importance. It never changed from the time of the Levites. After the ascension of Yahshua, when the Ruach HaKodesh came and the spiritual line was set, they didn't understand their part in it. But this is what it is. That's a given. This spiritual line must be maintained, and it is extremely contaminated. And we must encourage them to return to their camps and restart the services. And from there, they are going to direct the world. This is how important their services are. Because through them comes the heavenly understandings for the nations. This is how important it is. So it's vital for us to understand this topic and then encourage the Hebrew brothers to return to their camps, because they have a duty to do. They would not only be ministering to Yahweh Himself as it was before, but plus they would have the responsibility of maintaining the lives of those people outside, as He Himself, Yahweh, has kept them during the time that they were outside. Is the analogy making any sense? So this is what takes place. Much more coming up.